What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So we have finally made it after what, 5-6 months of reporting, giving updates, casting information, first look images, synopsis, I think episode counts. I mean, we are finally here. Episodes 1 and 2 of Dexter Resurrection dropped this past Friday. So it's been roughly now about 3.5, almost 4 days since these first 2 episodes dropped. So we are going to be giving a high level summary, high level review of these 2 episodes. You know, what our first initial impressions are of this series. You know, where we think this might be going. We do have 10 episodes, this being the first 2, that are going to be part of this, we'll call it limited series, because we don't know if they're actually going to do a season 2. And I'm sure they're going to wait until the final numbers are tallied before we even know we're going to get a season 2. Very much like they did with Dexter Original Sin. Season 1 ended, but wasn't too long after Dexter Original Sin ended. I think it was maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then they announced that they're going to be doing a season 2 of that. So we don't have any dates on when that might be happening, but because of the numbers, because of the draw and the interest of Dexter's or the Dexterverse, they're going to be doing a season 2 of that. But we are here to talk about Dexter Resurrection. Again, we've covered just about every casting update that was coming out. We were doing like 3 to 4 casting updates a week. It just seemed like it would never end, and then all of a sudden it went silent. We got some teaser trailers, the full trailer, and here we are. So again, we're going to be going through the first 2 episodes that were released. So if you haven't watched those first 2 episodes, spoilers, there's going to be spoilers. I'm not going to be going into a lot of in-depth, in the weeds on both these episodes, and I'm not going to do that for this overall series. We're just going to cover off on some very high-level things. One, to, you know, still garner some interest for you to go watch them if you haven't already. But also, I mean, I could do a good 45 minutes, a 45-minute video per episode if we really wanted to dive into every little tidbit of these, which I don't necessarily want to do. I want to leave a little bit out there for those who still want to go back and maybe watch it again or watch it for the first time. So, and then at the end of this first episode for this series, and again, if you didn't know, we are going to be doing this every week. So the episodes drop on Friday. We're gonna I'll watch them either Friday or Saturday, and then come back with a spoiler review on Sundays. I know that's not a lot of time, especially if you are looking to watch this series along with us. I don't want to wait too long to where, you know, we're already getting close to the very next episode's going to air, right? So I'm going to be doing them pretty quickly, and we're going to try and keep them to about 8 to 10 minutes tops. This one might be a little bit longer because we have 2 episodes to go over, but either way, I'm going to try and keep it to that 8 to 10 minutes per video. So, and at the end of this video, we will go over, we do have the list of episode names and dates for the next 8 episodes. So we have 10 total episodes, and we have 8 still to go. I don't know if they're going to be doing a season break. I recall in Original Sin, they did do like a break within the season where we didn't get an episode for weeks. There was like a 2-week gap between 2 of the episodes. I don't think that's the case here, but when we get to the end of this video, when we go over the dates and episode names, we'll be sure to look for that. So, reminders, we're going to be going into spoilers now. So I'm giving you a verbal warning of spoilers, and I'm letting you know now, if you look down below me, there is an icon. There's even a visual warning. Spoilers. We're going to be talking about spoilers. So if you have not watched these and you want to watch them without being spoiled in any way, shape, or form, then I'd say pause this video, stop this video, go watch them, come back, watch the rest of this, let us know what you thought about them, drop some comments in the comment section, whether you agree or disagree with my take on it and where I think we're going to be going with this. But spoilers from this point forward. So jumping in episode 1, I said we're going to go in through these fairly quickly. We hit it. I think like many people thought, and was what we speculated when we heard about Jimmy Smits and John Lithgow and coming back as far as the Trinity Killer and Miguel Prada. We knew they were coming back. They, especially like John Lithgow, he had mentioned he was only on set for 1 day. He was at a hospital. So we had said, oh, if he's at the hospital, this might be something where, you know, we knew at the end of Original Sin, or at the beginning of Original Sin, Dexter was being rushed to the hospital at the end of New Blood. From the actions at the end of New Blood, he's being rushed to the hospital. He's in the emergency room on the table. They're trying to revive him, and then we're taken right into the Original Sin story. With this, the episode pretty much starts off where We get, kind of that summary of what happened at the end of New Blood, and we're brought into, Dexter's being worked on, and he starts having these flashes, right? So that's where he sees the Trinity Killer. That's where he sees Miguel Prada. And surprise, one cameo that we did not know and I did not expect, we didn't cover, and I don't recall there being a story coming out about it, was Sergeant Dokes. He even showed up with a small cameo, which I thought was pretty cool to see him, because we know he hated Dexter throughout the original series. We know he thought Dexter, there was something off about him the entire time. And Dokes managed to have gotten framed as the Bay Harbor Butcher. So Dexter managed to sidestep that one, of course, until later on in that series, when it was being thought that Dexter, in fact, was the Bay Harbor Butcher, and Maria was the one that thought that, and even when she found the blood slide, this is after Deb found out about Dexter. So she never really believed Dokes was the Bay Harbor Butcher. But anyways, Dokes shows up in this same little vision, right, that Dexter has. So we go through all that. Dexter's saying this. They managed to save Dexter. I mean, it would be a pointless show if he would have died. So we do some jumping around as far as Dexter having these visions. He's in the hospital, and then we're now jumping to New York, where Harrison is. He's working at a hotel, and we first are brought to Harrison while he's staying in one of the hotel rooms. It looks like he might be staying in the hotel here and there, unknown by his boss. So he's using up one of the rooms. One of the things that will come to play later on this episode is we see as Harrison clocks into work, so to speak. He's downstairs. He's doing some of the work, and he goes to take out some trash bags, and they really focused on, and which now makes sense. They focused on the fact he was tying the trash bag knots a very specific way. It seemed like his own way of doing it. Took the trash out, put it by the curb to be picked up. So we continue to move on. Again, we're jumping back and forth between Dexter and Harrison, and then this is where we do a jump back. We see Dexter's father. We see Harry pop back up in his visions, obviously a little bit older. We're taken back to the shipping container while they're having that hallucination or vision conversation. We see Dokes at that point. Then Dexter fully wakes up. And I think they said he had been in a coma for 10 weeks, something like that. So he's obviously very weak. He's going to have to go through some rehab, which we see a little bit about him going through rehab, trying to learn how to walk and do all those things again. So again, we're jumping back and forth between what's happening with Dexter and what's happening with Harrison. So we go back to Harrison at this point after Dexter has woken up, and Harrison comes across an individual who obviously stays at the hotel very often. And he has another individual with him who's drunk, and Harrison notices this individual is going to attempt to take advantage of her. He gets her into her room, and as Harrison, thinks, hey, this is not my problem, I'm not getting involved, he hears her say stop or no, something to that effect. Harrison comes back in the room to stop him from doing what he's doing. And the guy's thinking, well, who are you? You're not going to do anything. So they get into this scuffle, and Harrison takes him out. Harrison retires him in a pretty brutal fashion, manages to get on top of him. And while the guy is down, Harrison goes over and grabs the porcelain top to the toilet and just bashes this guy multiple times. To the point where everything Harrison had learned from Dexter, you can see where he had lost a little bit of control. So he manages to get the girl back to her own room without being seen or caught, goes back to the room to now start cleaning up the scene. He manages to clean up the scene, wraps the body in plastic, starts cleaning the bathroom meticulously, as you would expect he would after spending some time with Dexter in New Blood. Makes his way down to the kitchen, where he puts the body on this large stainless steel table and continues to perform I don't want to say how you would remember, depending upon how science class was for you, you would have a frog, you would dissect the frog. Well, that's what he pretty much does with the body, into the 9 pieces. And as he's cleaned everything up, we see a point where he missed a spot of blood. As he was doing the dissecting, a spot of blood manages to make its way to the ceiling, and he never notices it. There's one little droplet of blood. So he gets all the parts into the trash bags, and what does he do? I don't know, obviously he must do all of his trash bags like this. He ties it up in a very specific knot, and trash people come, they take all the trash away, doesn't get caught. So now we jump back to Dexter. Dexter's, again, going through rehab, and the now new chief of police, or the new, police, head or whatever, I think chief that's taking over there. We saw him in New Blood. Is pretty much coming there. Dexter was thinking he's going to get caught because his girlfriend was outing him out as the Bay Harbor Butcher. But come to find out, that's not why he was there, and Dexter managed to get by on that one. Again, he was there for a completely different reason than what Dexter thought. So after a little bit of that, we find ourselves back at one of the New York City dumps, or like dumping stations, where the sanitation workers are unloading a truck. They find one of the bags rips opens. They find a couple body parts. They call the police. And this is where we're introduced to 2 detectives, one of them kind of being a little off, kind of like a Beautiful Mind type situation, where she's extremely smart, extremely kind of weird, kind of a bit different, but that's what makes her unique and very good at her job. So she notices the knot on the trash bag that ripped, and then so she starts going through all like the piles of trash, and they find all the bags because they put the body back together and realize that his watch is missing. Earlier on in this episode, this guy came up to Harrison and said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? My watch stopped working." So Harrison has his watch, and interestingly enough, they never come back to that. At least they haven't come back to it yet. As far as, because Harrison had taken the watch and was going to go get it worked on to get it working. But again, he never gives the watch back to the guy. The police realize that the watch is missing. They realize that because of the tan color of his skin. He's got like this suntan over it, where you can see there was a watch there. But again, they don't come back to that in the rest of this episode or episode 2. So I'm hoping this isn't going to be a situation like where we saw in Original Sin, when Dexter had his first kill, when he killed the nurse. And if you remember, he took the earrings from the nurse as a trophy. And later on, after his supposed girlfriend had the earrings, he got the earrings back, threw them into the crocodile or Gator Creek or whatever they called it. They never found those earrings. And I always thought that was a missed opportunity, because he kept them as a trophy. The arm of the loan shark popped up. He managed to get out of that one easily. But I think if they would have, maybe if they would have found those earrings, it could have added a little bit more to the story. So let's hope that this isn't a similar situation where they just completely bypass the watch and say, "Oh, well, yeah, we noticed that the watch is missing, but we don't do anything with it," right? I think that'd be, again, a missed opportunity. So we find ourselves now back to Dexter, and this is where we get the first appearance, cameo, whatever it's going to be, of Angel Batista, who's now the captain. And he's there, obviously shocked to see Dexter's alive, brings Dexter a Cuban sandwich. And this is where he starts to question Dexter. What happened to you? The last bit I saw of you was on the video footage of you taking Deb out of the hospital. Dexter has a very a story already ready to go to explain that situation of what happened with Deb. And he then goes on to say, Maria LaGuerta. He goes, you remember Maria? And you can see the look on Dexter's face. He goes, she believed, and she told me in confidence that she thought you were the Bay Harbor Butcher. And you could, again, see the look on Dexter's face, like, damn, I think I'm going to get caught here. So Batista doesn't really push it too much, but again, you can see Batista knows. He knows something. And I think he knows that Dexter is the Bay Harbor Butcher, but there's nothing he can do about it yet. Okay? So as this conversation ends, Batista tells him, "Hey, I made sure to bring you back to life. I made sure to submit all the paperwork and everything that you're no longer deceased. You actually are alive. And Dexter makes the talk over comment saying, "Oh, that's interesting that you brought me back to life because you can't, arrest or prosecute a dead guy." So again, as Batista's leaving, he talks to the doctor to say, how long is he supposed to be here for? Much longer. He goes, "Oh, he'll be here another, 2-3 weeks. He's got a lot of recovery." So, and Batista's like, "Oh, okay, what time are visiting hours? 11 to 4? I'll see you tomorrow at 11. So Batista has every notion, every expectation. He's coming back tomorrow. He's going to keep questioning Dexter. And I think his original plan would have been is to show up every day until Dexter could be released and would have arrested him, would have done something, to keep probing him maybe throughout those weeks. So now we find ourselves now back to the hotel with Harrison, just briefly, and Harrison notices and is overhearing some of the conversation of the detectives and his boss, the hotel manager, in the hotel room where the crime happened. And this is where he's hearing that the smart detective, she's like, "Wait a minute, this is too clean." Because what they did was they had the other bathrooms on the same floor, examined, tested for like bodily fluids, things of that nature. And obviously they found a lot, but in this particular bathroom, it was so meticulously clean, they found nothing. So that's how they knew that this was overly clean, that something had transpired. They also noticed that Harrison put up a new shower lining, the plastic lining, because he used the other one. He used the one that was there to wrap the body up in and get the body out. So they noticed that there was a new shower lining. They also noticed that the top to the toilet, the porcelain top, was a different color. So Harrison's hearing all this, thinking, "Okay, I really screwed up, right?" So that goes on for a little bit. We find ourselves now back at the hotel, not the hotel, but the hospital with Dexter. And this is where Dexter finds out about some killing in New York. He's like, and he's been told that there's this nine body parts, and he's like, okay, well, he realizes, okay, that's what he taught Harrison, right? So he's now realizing he needs to get to New York, not back to, he needs to get to New York, but sees that Batista's waiting for him. So he turns on his shower in his room to make the nurses and everyone think he's in the shower. But he's been in there for a while now, so Batista eventually just charges in there, realizes that Dexter's gone. You can see Batista freaking out like he's gotten away. He's looking out the windows like, damn, he escaped. Dexter manages to obtain a vehicle from a patient who had passed earlier. Went into his room, went through his possessions, got the keys to his vehicle. Now Dexter's making his way, and he makes his way to New York. And this is where, at the end, as the episode comes to an end, we see our first looks of Uma Thurman, who we know is the head of security for Peter Dinklage's character, which we haven't seen yet, and we haven't seen any of the other characters, any of the other serial killers that we've like Neil Patrick Harris, David Dismachin. None of them we've seen yet. So we see a little bit of Uma Thurman where she's, it appears she's tracked down another serial killer's apartment, because we see that we see she finds the trophies. She leaves what she is calling an invitation and some money. So I think that may be how that they get people into this society, this underground society of serial killers. So that happens, and then at the end of the episode, Dexter sees Harrison outside the hotel, and then we go to a credit scene. So episode, I thought this was a great start to this series. Obviously was setting a lot of foundational stuff. It had a lot of stuff to cover, right? Like what's going on with Dexter after he'd been shot, where did Harrison end up? But they jumped right into it, right? They jumped right into it with the cameos that we wanted to see. They jumped right into the Angel Batista showing up and, pretty much knowing Dexter's the Bay Harbor Butcher. Now Dexter's got to deal with that. So they didn't hold back. We didn't have to wait till episode 2, 3, maybe even 4 to get to those scenes. They just went right into it. So already getting Dexter on his toes. I give episode 1 a solid 4 out of 5. A solid 4 out of 5 for an episode 1 to kick off these 10 episodes. It was very good. Again, you saw a very vulnerable Dexter, but you also saw a Dexter realizing, I don't want to get caught, and he's on the run, so to speak, but at the same time trying to get to Harrison to make sure Harrison didn't screw anything up, so to speak. which we come to find out there was a screw up, right? So we're just going to jump right in now to episode 2 now. So episode 2 of this, again, we get a little bit of the summary, kind of like what they used to do in the original series, and we're brought to an opening scene where we have an individual getting picked up by a Lyft, like a kind of like an Uber, so to speak, and it quickly goes bad. It quickly turns into a serial killer, or what appears to be a serial killer. We don't know that right away, but as the episode goes on, we find out this individual is a serial killer, and he's known as the Dark Passenger is the name he's been coined, which we'll touch on in a little bit later. So Dexter now finds his way into the hotel at the end of the night. He finds the floor where the crime scene is at. He goes into the room and he starts noticing some of the same things, right? The liner's been changed in the shower. There's no blood. It's very clean. He manages to hide as the detectives and the hotel manager come back in and again start noticing those things I mentioned earlier. So he knows that he now needs to find where the dismemberment happened, right? Because it didn't happen in the room, and he knows that. So Dexter eventually finds his way down to the kitchen or to like the bar area, and he orders food to just wait out the staff, right? He's like, what time's the kitchen close? He finds out it's like in 30 minutes. So he orders some food to pretty much just wait until the kitchen staff leaves so he can go in there and take a look. We jump back now to where Angel Batista's at with the now new police chief, trying to get a sense of, hey, how do you know, tell me a little bit about what you know about Dexter, how, type of person he is. And realizing, I mean, obviously Dexter was going under a different name, so they didn't know him by Dexter, but now they do because Angel Batista told them his real name. So at that point, after that brief conversation in this little like diner restaurant, that we don't see Angel at all anymore at that point. Angel was like, that's pretty much where it ends. But he did tell the captain, hey, does Dexter have like a vehicle? And he does. It was a truck, if you remember. And that truck just so happens is in Harrison's possession. Harrison, if you remember, Harrison has the truck, and he still has the truck. Even now in this series, is what he's been driving around. So Angel tells him, hey, can you put out like put out a notice that if that truck is found, sold, whatever, to let me know? And he does. That's key. So now we jump back to Dexter. Dexter makes his way into the hotel kitchen. He's looking around. He finds the table where he knows the dismemberment would have happened. He finds the big cleaver that he knows would have been used. And he's going through he's reenacting what would have happened. And then that's where he finds the blood spot on the ceiling. He manages to get it down. Obviously Harrison didn't know about it, but Dexter found it and obviously got it off the ceiling, got rid of it. So we now jump back to Harrison. Now Harrison's been having these hallucinations ever since he killed this guy. And I think that's where they're showing a difference between Dexter and Harrison. Harrison's having like this guilty conscience, this remorse for doing what he's done. And Dexter, we know, doesn't really have that, right? We've always known that about Dexter. Dexter kills by the code and for a reason, doesn't lose any sleep over it. Actually, what we've always noticed from Dexter in the original series, when he kills somebody, hey, let's eat a sandwich, let's eat some donuts, let's eat a steak. Harrison doesn't react that way. Harrison is having a lot of problems. So Harrison goes out with one of his friends for a night out, ends up in his truck afterwards, hungover, whatever. And that same friend, who's kind of like one of the valet parkers, is driving a car into the garage. And he says to his friend, hey, you want to buy a truck? We assume that he bought the truck because that's where the scene ends. So that's why it's important from earlier that if the captain did put out that notice on that truck, once this friend goes to do the transfer title or register or whatever, that truck's gonna pop. And I think that's when we'll see Batista again, then show up then in New York, because we don't see Batista again for the rest of episode 2. All right, so now we're moving on, and Dexter's vehicle gets towed. He gets an Uber driver, and he now makes a new friend of this driver. So they start having this conversation back and forth. Dexter's time, he's new to the city, first time in the city. This is where he finds out about the dark passenger that's been going around killing like Lyft drivers, Uber drivers. So Dexter sees this as a way of, okay, I need to find out who the serial killer is at the same time of helping out my kid. So he's like, how do I become an Uber driver? And, he starts going down that path. So this guy has taken a liking to Dexter, invites him over to his house to meet his, to spend time with his family, have dinner with his family, things of that nature. So Dexter obviously takes him up on this. And before we get to that point, Uma Thurman pops up again. And we see her pop up to where we now see an interaction between her and what would have probably been a former serial killer, like as far as being employed by them, because she tells him, hey, don't contact us again. We want nothing to do with you. I'm not sure what he did to cause that. But she ends up, but at the end of the day, he's like, no, I need the money. I need to be involved. She ends up killing him in the parking lot with his weapon of choice, which is a bat with nails put through the end of it. So kind of brazen just to kill the guy right in the daylight, right in the middle of the parking lot. Didn't hesitate. So we find our, again, now we're at the point where Dexter is having, dinner and everything with the friends. Harrison has talked to his friend about buying the truck. The detectives have now identified, obviously they've identified the man, but they've now identified the woman that he was with through the security footage, that he was with somebody. They just don't know who yet. But the hotel manager knows who they are because she was part of a medical group that was there for a conference, so they would have had to have registered. So they know her information. So we keep moving on through the episode. Again, we're doing a lot. This episode 2 jumped around a lot between like 4 different like sub stories. Dexter ends up renting a bottom floor apartment from this gentleman he's met and become friends with. So now Dexter has established residency in New York. He has a New York driver's license. He bought a new vehicle to be an Uber driver to try and track down this dark passenger character. So we continue now to move forward, and he's now identified who the serial killer is. I won't spoil that for you on how he goes about identifying who the dark passenger individual is, but he eventually does figure out who he is, and he almost gets a hold of him. But the guy manages to escape down into the subways because Dexter's just not fully recovered, not fully there yet. So as the episode comes in, Dexter comes back up from the top of the subway down the subway station down below, and realizes okay, here we go. We're gonna get back into it as far as we're gonna start killing people. And again, that's where the episode ends. I love the fact that they kept the soundtracks, the kind of intro, outro music, the same as the original series. It felt very reminiscent, very like callback, nostalgic to the original series. So, episode 2, I'm giving it a 3.5. And the only reason I'm giving it a 3.5 is just because, again, we have a lot of story building to be doing here. It's a lot of just setting the foundation, setting expectations of what's going on. Dexter's now in New York. This is what's going on with Harrison. This is where the 2 police detectives are at. So, and they had to close off the point where with what was going on with Angel Batista. So again, they had a lot to cover off on this episode. So it wasn't all that exciting, but the way they ended it, I think that's where we're going to start getting it. It's going to start picking up, right? I think it's going to start picking up like we used to see in the original series. And I think this dark passenger serial killer is part of this underground society that Peter Dinklage is running and it has all these other serial killers. And we know eventually, because we saw it in the trailer, we know eventually Dexter starts working for them, and whether or not he starts working for them and decides, hey, your code is not my code, and then turns on them, we don't know yet. We'll see how this plays out. But yeah, again, I'd give this one a solid 3.5. Again, not because it was just, this was boring. It's because they had a lot of foundation to set, so not a lot of action yet. We got to see a little bit of action in episode 1, which is why it was a solid 4. So, solid 4 out of 5 on episode 1, 3.5 on episode 2. We have 8 more episodes to go, with the next one airing on July 18th, and it's called Backseat Driver. So we're going to run through these right before we close out this video. We're going to just run through the episode names real quick, So, looking over at my notes here, so we have backseat. We have backseat driver, which is going to happen on July 18th, which is later this week. And quickly, just looking at the dates, it does not look like they're taking a like mid-season break. So we're going to get these week after week. So we have backseat driver next week, Call Me Red, which will be 1, 2, 3, episode 4, episode 5, Murder Horny, episode 6, Cats and Mouse, episode 7, Course Correction, which might be where Dexter, if he was working for Peter Dinklage's character, maybe he's like, nope, not doing that anymore. Episode 8, The Kill Room, Where It Happens, episode 9, Touched by an Angel, and then the last episode, episode 10, And Justice for All. And that the last episode airs on September 5th. So we pretty much have a weekly episode now going from July 18th all the way through September 5th. So, like I said, we'll be doing an episode summary every Sunday. We'll drop our spoiler run through. And again, this one was a little bit longer. I recognize that because we had a lot of information to cover. We obviously set up how we're going to run this series. We had 2 episodes to cover, and then giving the information for the rest of the schedule. So, but going forward, again, as I mentioned, we'll drop these on Sundays, and I'll try to keep them about 8 to 10 minutes long. Since we have a lot of the administrative work out of the way as far as how we're going to handle this. So, anyways, that's going to do it for. And I'll say this before we close out. I'll just say I'm into this. Original Sin, I could give or take. I'll probably go back and watch Original Sin. And I said I would never. I think the only reason now I will is because we're getting a season 2. Had they kept that as a limited series and never did a season 2, I would not be going back to it. This though this has the feeling. And I don't think it has really anything to do with the fact that Original Sin was a prequel, didn't really have Michael C. Hall in it, and it didn't. And this one obviously does. This just feels like Dexter. This feels like a continuation from what we saw from the original series, New Blood. And again, we know how New Blood ended. None of us like that, but they are trying their best to correct that ending now with this. So I think now if you were to watch all of this in order, which a lot of people are, the numbers on these first 2 episodes are just absolutely crazy. And even the numbers for the original series on Paramount Plus are absolutely crazy. They've seen a huge uptick in viewership. So, and I think that's what they want to see. And hopefully it will continue out. And I think it will continue out for the rest of this. And we'll see if we get a season 2. So, anyways, that's going to do it for this kickoff episode for the Dexter Resurrection series, episodes 1 and 2. Again, solid 4 for episode 1, 3.5 for episode 2, and then we will bring you our spoiler review of episode 3 this coming Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. And we will create a playlist specifically for this series, like we did with Original Sin. So all the videos are there together. So drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've seen these 2 episodes. What would you score them out of 5? Again, let me know in the comment section. Make sure to hit that like button. And as always, it is free to subscribe. So please make sure to subscribe to the channel. The support is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you at the next one. Later.